there's been a few new wonder kids on the scene over the last few years, Carl, especially in Brazil with Vinicius Jr. and the like. There's a new boy on the scene now, gone to Real Madrid. Endrick, he's ripping it up already. He's only 17, I think. He's in the Brazilian national squad now. I saw pictures, graphics comparing his goal to game ratio with like Neymar and Ronaldo at his age.
Wow, he's right at that level of comparison.
He's of that level of comparison, but he is also far and away third in the comparison anytime I saw it. So like Ronaldo's like 200 goals in 40 games and only got 16 or something. but it's still very impressive. But
yeah,
there's something else happening as well. So he's being marketed in a very interesting way. So he's a new face of New Balance, and he's Brazil are pushing him hard on their social media and stuff.
Yeah,
but the way they're doing it is they're kind of like they're kind of shooting pictures of him and like the graphics as if he's Pele. I can't even describe how. It's like all the clothes he's wearing are from the 70s. And the pictures are all grainy and black and white. But it's just like him arriving to training yesterday.
So is he wearing this clothes on his own volition or no?
That's the question. That I don't know. But honestly, look up Endrick, Brazil national team, and just look at some of the pictures. He is straight out of the 70s. Because I've seen a lot of people on Twitter commenting under pictures saying, this guy is destined to be a superstar with picture quality like that. It's so grainy. Look at that picture.
I mean, it looks like he just went to Zara in Madrid. That's all that looks like to me. He looks like every fashion guy on Instagram. That's it's all cyclical. The fashion things come back just like Pele.
It's funny. He's like well dressed, and because of that, people's like, it's like he's from the 60s.
This man is a time traveler. What's that, a collar? He's going to be the best in the world.
Honestly, that is nonsense. Nonsense. All nonsense.
They say many garbage things.
You don't know what you're going to get.
Melodrama upon melodrama!
This is a totally
shameful, disgraceful piece of nonsense!
He was balls off it yesterday.
You'll learn a lot more if you listen rather than talk all
Plenty
the
of
time.
time, no problem.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a No Nonsense podcast with Cathal and Will. International Break Edition.
The last in a long line of some of the worst international breaks we've ever seen.
Let me ask you this, Will. How many points behind Messi was Wout Weghorst in the Ballon d'Or standings? I'm assuming he came second.
Yeah. Judging from how he's played in the last two games I've seen him in, yeah, it must have been very close.
He scored as many goals in the Premier League for both Burnley and Man United as he has against us in this qualifying campaign.
Yeah.
Which is two, but nevertheless, I mean, either the Premier League is insane levels of difficulty, or we are making not great players look like world beaters.
Well, Joe was another good sign of that. Gus Poyet, manager of Greece, who absolutely just hammered us twice, has now been sacked because of poor performance, and all of the fans seem delighted he's gone.
Well, in their mind, Will, put yourself outside of us and looking at the group. You're saying, all right, France, obviously tough game. Netherlands aren't world beaters, which they're not.
Yeah,
I mean, look at that team. They're obviously better than us, but they're not going to win anything at the World Cup or the Euros next. Like, it's not a classic Dutch team by any stretch of the imagination. So if you're Greece, you're thinking, well, that's the team we got to beat to second. And they didn't come close, really. But look at Gibraltar and us and going, yeah, well, obviously beat them. Jesus Christ. I mean, what they won? When's the last time Ireland in the World Cup?
Yeah.
That's what they're thinking. So, yeah, I can see that. For us, we looked at Greece and said, that's probably the team we need to try and beat. But I don't think anybody really thought we'll hammer Greece at all.
It would have been one of the great victories in recent Irish times.
Oh, honestly, God, yeah, it would have been one of the best teams that we actually beat, I think, recently.
Yeah.
So, look, I don't know. It's people hate when we do Ireland, typically. And they just stop listening. So just a little bit of warning. We're going to do a very quick segment on Ireland, cover other maybe international break stories. For now, Will, I mean, The worst thing about this Ireland team is that we are boring.
Oh God, yeah.
It's just so boring.
We are. I genuinely think this might be the least enjoyable Irish team there's ever been to watch, which is saying something because the whole point of Stephen Kenny was to take us away from being the most boring team to watch on the planet. He's done it. We've nosedived.
It didn't start off that way. It started off like we'll have a go. We'll be kind of attacking, and we'll concede a couple of goals. We might score a couple as well. You know, you never know. And you got to score goals to win games. It was like, okay, let's see where this takes us. Now we've got the point where we're bad and we're trying and we can't do anything. It's like watching an older boy holding out his arm on the head of a smaller boy, and him swing his arms like pointlessly. No chance of hitting anyone. He's just like, there's nothing you can do. Just hold your arm's length here. And I'm going to do this for 90 minutes and you're going to watch. And then it's like, yeah, we lost 1-0 because of course we did. We never really came close. Really, the Dutch could have scored more. I kind of joked there that, but of course, like he had a hold of Collins' shirt and would hold him off. Maybe he could have called it back for a free. But I think the fact that Manning ran into him, like, you know, like the Three Stooges kind of a move. Or like he's holding off one guy, and then Manning goes, "I'm going to save this," runs in, and then Wout just glides away, and he careens into Collins, knocking him over. I think the VAR looked at that and went, "Oh, these guys don't deserve to. Or let's just get this game over. It's please God, because the Dutch are struggling to finish the dinner here. So let's just put this entire game out with misery." Yeah. He then ran like the pitch. He had like 4 or 5 touches before he rattled him through from net.
Again, Wout Weghorst.
It's just, if you gave a player that much time and space, then I mean, it's just, you know, he's going to do it. Yeah. And he's probably never got that much time and space in his entire career up until now. So, I mean, yeah, it was just, like I say, we are trying to be attacking, but we're just not good enough to do it.
We're easy to beat and hard to watch.
Yeah. So the alternative of being defensively solid and not threatening is different, but also the same outcome. Was that like, we're not going to score and they're just going to try and break us down. This one is like, we're going to try and score. We won't, and they'll break us down pretty easily.
Yeah. We can't do anything now, yeah.
We can't do anything about it. So it's the combination, the worst combination, not being able to win and not being exciting even to watch. Yeah. No kind of green shoots of progress, just absolute hard stuff. Like I was watching, I was trying to find the stream for here, obviously, and I was like, oh, fuck's sake. Like, you know, it was like fucking going into school, you know, I was like, oh, here we go. Let's fucking turn this on and watch this shit, you know. It's like,
take time out of my day in Mexico.
You know, like, and if I'm the only reason I was in that because for this podcast, you know, if you're like a fan, you're not fucking looking for the stream.
No.
So maybe you'll turn on RT or whatever on, but like, you know, it's bad stuff. And honestly, this whole campaign, everyone beforehand and the COVID and all that stuff, I gave them plenty of, you know, allowances, but this whole campaign, we've looked so bad, looked so inept.
Yeah.
Like I say, easy to beat and hard to watch. And again, I think I said this last time, it's like, I hope that there's a manager out here who can look at this team and say, I want to manage that because I think something can happen, but
I don't know who is seeing that and going, that's who I want to be in charge of.
Or whose season goes, yeah, I could make something work from that. I could make this team better.
Yeah, honestly, Evan Ferguson might be saving us in more way than one. Rather than just being the one exciting player who can score goals, he might be the one player that some manager out there is like, I'd love to be managing him. Whatever about the rest of the squad.
Yeah, he didn't look great in the game either.
No.
He couldn't get the ball to him. I mean, again, the Dutch said, okay, he's the player to watch. Exactly. Just him. That's all. So do that. They did.
And we win.
And they did. So yeah, it's like I said, there's if we talk about it more, people just turn off. So I don't know where to go from here on this.
Well, here's a question for you. Do you think there's a manager out there who can turn the ship around? Or is this just, are we doomed after years of not investing and not doing things properly? Is this just going to be the case for the foreseeable no matter what?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a wider issue. It definitely goes deeper than just this team is being mismanaged, which I think it probably is a bit. like you could probably get more out of this team, a little bit more out of this team. But I mean, you do have to look at.
Could we qualify? Like, I don't think so.
If you were to go back in time with a different manager and be defensively solid, I mean, the Dutch didn't do a lot of scoring against us. Didn't do a lot of scoring against anybody, really. So they weren't a killer team. France obviously were very good, as they proved to Gibraltar, who doubted them at some point. I don't know why they decided to give Gibraltar the record beating for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, and you might think that like they were just playing their game and these things happened. No, a video came out of their halftime team talk where Deschamps said 7-0 now, lads. 10 is the record. We can smash that. Same determination. We all want to score.
Yeah. Do you know what?
Take that, firefighters and school teachers of Gibraltar.
Yeah. And you know what? After the World Cup final, because I think we were playing them next, I thought that might happen to us. I was like, they are going to really want to kill someone after this, and we play them next,
A word also for one of our favourite things in football, the Giroud highlight reel.
Yeah.
Giroud scored, I believe the 14th goal in that game was a 98-minute bicycle kick.
Yeah. I mean, I told you, man, the French are just the English with an accent. You might be able to understand what they say, but if you could, you probably wouldn't like what you hear.
Yeah, no, bullies.
But yeah, I mean, look, if just say for instance, for example, we had Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane still in charge, God forbid, for this campaign.
Touch wood.
And they were, making us defensively sound. I mean, what we speed 2-1?
Yeah, I think so.
When we just kept letting Timisius run down that wing unopposed.
Yeah. Keane might stop that, to be fair.
They might have stopped that, might put someone on him. We might get out there a draw. Would we beaten Greece at home? You do have to score at some point. I don't know. But I mean, in terms of the team who had the capability to score lots of goals against us was France.
Yeah.
And they didn't do that even though we were playing terribly. We were just running at them, leaving gaps, and just passed around us. The Dutch did seem to be on top of the entire game. It looked like they might be able to do that, but they didn't have that killer finishing talent.
Yeah.
Greece, in their own opinion, underperformed. And then there was Gibraltar. So I mean, it wasn't a group of that we got destroyed in every game in terms of the scoreline. So I don't know. If we'd been more defensively solid, I think we would have narrowly missed out.
Yeah. It wouldn't have been as crushing, yeah.
And we would have said, there's something in this team. We just need to pay more attacking. It would have been exactly before, being like, we are good. They just play the wrong way.
Yeah.
So I think this just kind of shows that, I don't know what this shows. It's yeah, the question is, if we would have had someone else who would have qualified, no, I don't think we would have. I think it goes deeper than that, and I think it's about producing players, and it's on a grassroots level. And until you fix that, we'll just be in this perpetual zone of we're kind of good. We have some good players, but overall the team isn't strong enough to compete.
Yeah, I have a good example of some of the problems you mentioned. 2 other leagues in the world, maybe Europe actually, 2 other leagues in Europe make as little money as the League of Ireland does from TV rights. Do you know what those 2 countries are?
Liechtenstein and the Vatican.
Similar. Belarus and Kazakhstan. Only Northern Ireland, Andorra and Luxembourg have less academy coaches than Ireland. We're probably actually overperforming at the moment, which is a scary thought.
Well, Luxembourg, who did beat us.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
grim.
It's grim. And look, you need to talk to a smarter man than me to figure out the solution to this and even why it's happening. Well, I just kind of watch the games and go, this is shite. What the fuck is this?
Recoiling in horror at the telly.
What is going on?
Why can't we score a goal?
So yeah, look, that's your Ireland roundup. It was bad again. So yeah, I suppose the main story this week, Will, is Everton got the book thrown at them.
They did. We had mentioned it a few weeks ago, that this was in the pipeline, but we were joking, but sure, they can't do that with their 1 charge and City's 115. It makes no sense. And
Yeah.
then Everton got the biggest point deduction in Premier League history at 10 points.
Well, this is the thing. This is why we laughed at it, because we thought it would take something drastic for this to happen. Like, the Premier League just doesn't punish stuff, especially financial stuff. It's like, this is our brand. This is what we do. You know, we throw cash around. Everyone fawns over the transfer numbers, and we maintain our status as the best league in the world. Look at the money we spend. How could we not be the best?
Yeah.
And that trickles down to, like, you know, the top 10 teams in the Premier League would beat the top 16. You know, it's all the whole brand. So I don't think anybody was expecting this 10-point deduction. I mean, it's huge.
It's huge, but it could not have come at a better time or in a better season for Everton, where I think even with the 10-point deduction, they are 2 points from safety. So they should be fine.
No, I think
They are where they were last season and the year before without the point deduction.
I think they're just a point ahead of Burnley. I think they're 19th, Will.
But they should be fine.
Listen, I think they will be fine, and they got a big win there against Crystal Palace. So I think they are going well. And listen, if you were looking for siege mentality, Sean Dyche, you got it. Yeah, you really got it here. You know, because I
guess who Everton are playing after the international break.
Liverpool,
Man United.
Oh,
good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a real kind of back against the wall stuff. But the only thing I will say, Will, is that I don't see anybody saying this is bullshit. You know, like when City came out and said this is all lies, this is all fabrications. We've unrefutable evidence.
Yeah,
Everton said, like, what, 10 million? What is that? And then the Premier League said, well, there's actually 20 million. So that is more than 10. It's like, okay, yeah, but we refute that. It's not quite 20, maybe 10, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, well, they're not saying we didn't break the rules. They didn't say, like, we didn't, we did not do this. Unlike, City, just like outright. Yeah, City didn't back down, they doubled down. And look what I got them.
Exactly.
The police, immunity. Everton admitted to us. And like, right, well, then you're banned. then you're getting deduction. Shouldn't have been to it.
I read a good thread on Twitter earlier from or Swiss Ramble, who's like the financial football guy. But he gave his thoughts on what this does mean for City. And it was like, it's a long thread, it's worth reading, but he goes into detail and everything. And one of the things he talks about is when City were charged by UEFA. Remember that big court battle, which they won?
Yes.
Which they won because they refused to give over a key piece of evidence. Did you know that?
I don't know that. You could just do that in court.
Well, you see, that's the thing. You can't really, but whatever way they had worked their law magic, it worked. They couldn't get the document, which means they couldn't prove the thing, which means you can't do it. But because of Everton's charges and the way it's happened, and now the way City's charges have all fallen into place, it's not possible for them to hide any of these things.
Right.
So it means if even one of those charges is close to Everton's, then that is a point deduction. And it's like that the whole way down the board of all the charges. Which means, again, this isn't my thoughts. This is an actual guy who knows what he's talking about. He said, from what I can see, I don't see anything other than expulsion from the Premier League for Man City.
Jeez, and how far down would they go then? The Championship? League 1? League 2?
I guess that means you're out of the Football League. No, maybe it's for like 2 years or something like that. But I don't know how the hell does that work like?
Yeah, I mean, the thing I suppose with the Everton one as well is that, like, it probably won't be 10 points as well.
Yeah.
Like, they'll appeal this, they'll try and get it down. It's a bargaining thing, Will.
Exactly.
It's
you start at 10, we're all going for 6.
All right. We'll take a loss, take 3 points. Like, no, too low. Like, it's 10 points. Okay, come on. Be reasonable here.
Yeah.
What are we talking? 4, 5 points? 8 points minimum. Like, there's no way I'm going below 8. What about 6? I'll beat you for 6. 7 points. All right. You twist my arm, Premier League, 7 point deduction. That's only 2 games, Will. A game and a draw,
And meanwhile, the City's team of lawyers are sitting in the waiting room being like, okay, if we can get them down to like 9 months expulsion, that'd be great.
Well, this is it. For City, if you go by one charge equals 10 points.
Yeah.
That logic, 115 by 10. Whoa, that's a lot of points, But it depends what the charges are. It depends how the Premier League season was as major has major issues.
And one of the issues is Everton's problems were during COVID. It's money during COVID to do with their stadium was like the issue. So it's like it's very recent, and it makes sense for you to get a point deduction now because like the funds from then impacted your transfers over the next few seasons. Whereas like City's charges from like 2012, it seems mad. Surely it's that season which that should have got the point deduction, do you know? So do you take the league off them from that year, or do you deduct them now when it's like a team full of totally new people?
Yeah, well, that's what the thing was a few months ago, I guess, where it was like, you know, all the teams are going to get medals because they take it off that season. But I guess that season is done, can't be changed. So we're just going to take all the points now, and they'll just be out of the league.
Just let
so
Liverpool win the league, Arsenal win the league, I guess.
They'll just have asterisks beside the titles.
Weirdly, though, in a grand scheme of things, something like expulsion from the league over this, in the past, that might have been like a huge asterisk that would like that totally crush this club. I think now, the way the world is, like all of the fake news and things like that, City fans aren't going to give a shite. They're going to be like, oh well, we still won it, boys. We'll be back in 2 years. We'll win it again.
But yeah, but I mean, it might take a bit more than that. I don't know. Like if you're whatever, Jack Grealish, Erling Haaland, you're out of the Premier League now. You're not in Champions League. You're jumping ship. You know, you're out of here. You know, like they're losing all those players. Yes, they've endless money, but then also it's like whatever, going to do a PSG or going to a City. It's like, oh, you're all money. It's whatever. It's like, yeah, but I mean, every club has a billionaire owner or some kind of consortium.
I'm still playing.
Nobody has clean money. There's no perfect club to go if you want to compete. Whereas this one's like confirmed cheaters. You know, it's very much a tarnished thing on a club that you've been expelled from league, and now you're going to go there as like one of the best upcoming players to play there. And it's like, you know, I think it might really damage the brand. And you might think that doesn't matter, but I mean, I think this could be huge. If City and Chelsea as well, let's not forget about
Chelsea also, yeah.
If they were kicked out of the league, I mean, it would just be. It would be devastating for them.
It would be devastating for them, but also, I think, for the Premier League itself, because that is a lot of periods of time where you're like, oh, so like that whole Jose Mourinho period, cheating, the whole City, like the entire City period, they were cheating. So it's like, oh, fuck, what was the point of the last 20 years I was watching then?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think people have spotted this before anyways, that there's massive financial gaps between teams. So it's not like this is like, whoa, what was that? Whoa, I'm completely shocked with this. Like, we knew, but it was kind of like, well, I guess that's professional sports. The richest team wins, and that's just...
But then when you find out, it's like, no, that's not even allowed in this sport. You're like, oh, what the hell? Why weren't you calling this years ago?
Unless you can get... Like, I mean, there's examples like Bayern and Man United and you know, say Barcelona as well, like who over time became the richest club in their leagues by winning, and you know, then you sign the best players from their teams, and that's also a financial advantage. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. But you look at that and you go, well, like, what is the point? Like, they're just going to win every year, you know? So yeah, when City and Chelsea and I guess Newcastle now come in, it's like, well, at least there's some competition. And it's already a league where the rich team wins. So I mean, what's the difference? You know,
exactly.
So, and again, like we talk as like fans of Arsenal, and like, oh, it's so unfair us teams. But like if you're like a Southampton fan,
now it's unfair.
producing and finding these producing players and finding these diamonds in the rough, and then you know you hear these like top 6 clubs being like, oh, just the financial doping it's a disgrace. Like, yeah, it's real tough out there for some teams. You know, like. It's the whole system has been like this for a long time, so it's kind of like it's a bombshell if they were taken out. But the fact that there's like financial doping is not news in a way. You know? It's just that they weren't doing it within the very loose parameters that the Premier League had already set. Yeah, you know.
I have Everton's statement here.
Yeah,
they said the club believes that the Commission has imposed a wholly disproportionate and unjust sporting sanction. The club has already communicated its intention to appeal decision to the Premier League. The appeal process will now commence, and the club's case will be heard by an appeal board appointed pursuant to the Premier League's rules in due course. Everton maintains that it has been open and transparent in the information it has provided to the Premier League, and that it's always respected the integrity of the process. And then here's, I think, the most interesting line in the whole thing. Everton said both the harshness and the severity of the sanction imposed by the Commissioner are neither fair or reasonable. They will be monitoring with great interest the decisions made in any other cases concerning the Premier League's profit and sustainability rules. So basically, if it's 10 points for us, it fucking better be 10 points for everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, and that's I think the sentiment for not only Everton fans, but a lot of people around the league are like licking their lips saying, okay, so when are you going to punish City now? You know? Because like the precedent has been set now, and it's like, yes, you know, this is, it's happening. It's going to fucking happen, you know?
In that, I think a lot of the bigger teams are like, oh yeah, here we go. Time, like the vultures are circling like City and Chelsea. But also at the bottom of the table, there's some vultures circling Everton. Leeds, Leicester and Burnley are set to sue Everton for £300 million following the point deduction, because they're saying like, well, sure, the years we were battling them for relegation, they were fucking cheating, and now it's been confirmed. So why aren't they down here with us? And it could get nasty, because if that lawsuit goes through, if they get the £300 million, that money plus the fines and plus all of the things going on would put Everton into administration, apparently.
9 more points. You're going down now.
Yeah. And it's just the thing of like, well, if they couldn't account for the 20 million during that period, where are they going to get this 300 million from all of a sudden to pay these clubs?
Yeah.
So they're fucked if that happens.
I don't know. I mean, I was reading there on the toffeeweb.com. Well, it's an Everton website. They were bringing up some old stuff as well, and just in terms of precedents, you know. I'll just read an expert from it here. Just how independent, impartial, and qualified were at least 2 members of this commission. Perhaps it felt Nick Igo, the finance director of West Ham during the Karas Tevez affair in 2005-2006, was uniquely able to weigh in on Everton's case, given that the Hammers, under his watch, were found guilty of gaining a sporting advantage when the Argentine striker, illegally registered by the London club, scored a goal that helped relegate Sheffield United. Except in that case, when the Yorkshire club won the case, the Premier League ducked the option of handing out a points penalty and settled for a compensation payment instead. In the Commission's own words, Everton did not deliberately break the rules in order to gain a sporting advantage, yet were hit with a massive 10-point deduction. So they're citing precedent where, you know, I think the Premier League fit the bill there, because it was like, well, that was a pretty good Premier League moment when Karas Tevez kept West Ham up. I think we all can agree that was a pretty sweet goal he scored. Yeah. So listen, we'll give Sheffield United some hush money here. We can all just continue on being the greatest league in the world. He's on the panel. The finance sector of West Ham happened.
So insane. He's on the panel.
So I think, and this article, the headline of our article is "Independent Commission into Everton Breach has more than an air of show trial about it." So that's their take, that it's a show trial. They're putting us up here. Look, this is what happens when you break the rules, so that they can use it to go after City and Chelsea, as you've mentioned, Will. I suppose the big thing, the wider thing, Will, is this is, I mean, bad for Everton, obviously, and maybe bad for City and Chelsea fans, but is it a good thing that the Premier League actually is, you know, not doing what it usually does and turns a blind eye to these things? Yeah. But is actually saying we have to stop somewhere with this, because it is kind of getting a bit crazy with the money that's being spent. We have to have some controls here. Yeah,
I think it is. Because, like, I'm sure you were the same as me. I thought it was shocking that Everton got a point deduction. Like, genuinely, I couldn't believe it.
It just never happens.
Nothing ever happens. Like, I'd say there's been very little point deductions ever in the Premier League.
Yeah, like when the City thing happened, everyone's like, this is crazy, confirms all my beliefs, but everyone was in agreement, but like, nothing's going to happen. Like, there's nothing actually going to, this is going to go to the courts, it's going to fizzle out, and that'd be it. Like, everyone kind of could know how it was going to happen before anything was even came out. So that's the kind of idea that people have of the Premier League when it comes to this kind of stuff. I mean, in that article as well, they cite the Super League clubs that were like never punished for that. So they tried to like break away a league, and then they came back and went, fine, it didn't work out. You know, we're going to play this year. And like nothing, no fine, no points auction, nothing. Just like on with this. So this, like, for Everton to come out and get 10-point deduction for missing out by 20 million. That's how much they were off the spending. I mean, you know who you would get for 20 million in the Premier League, Will?
Yeah. Who was that?
The goalie, that terrible goalie for the Netherlands against Ireland, who almost let in Adamita's disallowed goal.
Yeah.
The sometimes Brighton keeper, Bart Verbruggen. He cost 20 million. So that's how much they were out. That's not an advantage to stay up. Not my eyes.
And this is the thing as well, was that money that they spent, it wasn't even spent on players. It was spent on their fucking stadium, which they're trying to build. Like, surely there should be some leeway in FFP for it's like, okay, we see what you were trying to do there. You're not like actively trying to cheat here. You're just trying to fucking pay the bills.
Well, again, it all comes down to what the Premier League is trying to illustrate by doing this. Is it saying we're drawing the line, we're not going to give allowances, we're not going to fucking let you appeal this. You break the rules that we set out, you're done. Doesn't matter what it's for. Doesn't matter if you're fucking donating to charity that money. If that's part of your expenses, you're out. You know, or is it just kind of, okay, we can't punish City and Chelsea and everyone's laughing at us and everyone's saying, oh yeah, we're just a joke. So let's throw the book at Everton and say, see, we mean business. When you actually break the rules, we come down on tough. We're a real league. Yeah. You know, and then they just don't do anything to City. Then it's pointless. Then it's performative. But if it's actually to set a priest and say, you know what, we're stopping the book here, because once we let one team have this, they all start doing this. And if they go after City and Chelsea and they punish it, and any team, it could be Arsenal, United, anyone, if they punish teams who actually break it, then overall it's a good thing. But if it's just this one-time thing to kind of flex your muscles on a Premier League team, it's worse than what they're doing usually. Yeah,
or like if they're trying, like I said, to set the precedent so that legally and stuff they can do it to City.
Yeah.
But then like with City's team of super liars, they could find a way out of it still. So then it's like, okay, well, they've set the precedent and now they've still gotten away with it. So it's much worse.
Well, yeah, I don't know exactly how like in the court of law, it's like the higher standard of proof to convict. If this is just an independent commission, the Premier League is literally a law unto itself. It can do whatever it wants, really. Yeah. You know, within the realms of like keeping a league that people want to be part of. You can't just like relegate people for no reason. But I mean, if you can find evidence and then the lawyers are like, oh, well, section A, section B or of this, it's like, listen, man, you know.
Come on.
We are judge, jury, and executioner here and we know what you've done.
Yeah.
Then it's more if City have hidden it well enough. That's what the lawyers are employed for. But they can't just come up and do like a speech from, you know, a few good men and then convince the Premier League judge, like, you know what? You're right. You know, like the super lawyers is one thing, but it's more covering their track. If they've got 115 charges and it's there in black and white, then the Premier League do have the power to just kick them out of their club, essentially. Their little league that they made up. It's not to do with the law. So I mean, it's you know.
So there's been a lot of talk of like, this is the biggest point deduction ever in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Would you like to hear the other point deductions?
I would, Will. I would. Another graphic for me to make. Lovely.
Exactly. And as a little, you can we'll make a little game of it. You can guess how many point deductions.
Oh, you give me the charges, and I'll do the.
So there's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that right? No, sorry, 6. So. Everton overspending by £19.5 million, 10-point deduction. Portsmouth, 2009, 2010, entering administration.
Well, only that I read that is an automatic 9-point deduction. I do know that one from reading on that.
So, again, 9-point deduction for your club going broke, essentially.
Yeah, which in terms of sustainability, which is the charge that Everton face, that's pretty unsustainable if your club doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. So then 96, 97 was the next one. Middlesbrough, failing to fulfill a fixture. How many points do you think?
I think obviously the 3 points, but then also another 2 points for another point for good measure. I would say 4 points.
They weren't so harsh back in the day. 3 points.
Oh, just a walkover, basically.
Which begs the question, if you're going up against, I don't know, if you're like bottom of the barrel in the league, you've injuries, you're going up against City or whoever at the time, could you have just taken the walkover every time? Just been like, look, we've injuries this week, let's not bother, lads. 3-point deduction, please.
And no difference in your goal difference.
No
change in goal difference. So rather than losing 4-0 to 5-0, then...
I will say, that's not on the table here, but maybe that was the case.
We guess you'd have lost 10-0.
Maybe scored 2.
10-2 was probably the likely score there. So that's -8 for you.
And here's where it gets interesting. So the other 2 charges, the other 2 point deductions, both happened on the same day for the same incident.
Oh, a fight.
The 2 teams involved, Arsenal and Man City, 1990 and 1991. Reason? brawl.
Ooh. This is like, have you ever seen the, I don't know if they still do it, Arsenal TV people. They kind of gatekeep Arsenal and they'll like, in the middle of arguments, they'll go, who scored the 92 FA Cup final? I'm being outed here as who was in the brawl? Who was in the brawl 91 versus Man City? Fake fan, get out of here, you know. For a brawl, bringing the game into disrepute, I would
have to
say
think about the year though as well.
1991. Yeah, men were men back then.
Men were men. These things happened, but maybe this was a very serious brawl.
This must have been a serious brawl. And you know what, Will? I haven't seen many brawls in like the years afterwards. So maybe they did set a precedent. Like, you want to start throwing fisticuffs, then maybe, you know, you'll get a big punishment for it. I'm going to say they 3 points each. They both lost 6 points.
Incorrect. Again, much more lenient. Arsenal, 2 point deduction. Man United, just the one.
It was Man United. I thought it said Man City.
Yeah, no, Man United, Arsenal. 2 points for Arsenal, just the 1 point deduction for United. They mustn't have had as much players involved in the brawl.
Arsenal started it. Was it Old Trafford, was it?
It doesn't say. I'm assuming
so. Sure it was. Fergie was there. Fergie had a word in ref's ear, Will. Who was on the commission that day? Howard Webb, a very young Howard Webb.
He was a child then. A child in a large suit.
No, Howard Webb must be in his 50s. He's probably like his mid-20s. You know, he was probably in his prime back then. Well, full head of hair.
Yeah.
Corrupt as ever.
Hair down to his back on the adjudication panel.
The hippie ref, they called him.
Yeah, and we were just saying to you there, Stephen, that your players continue to support you and your staff and your methods. But that was a difficult evening, and would it in particular disappoint you that the mistakes that we made, that were self-inflicted in a sense?
Well, I think Holland are a world-class team. They're one of the top teams in Europe. You know, all their players play at the best clubs, you know, we've played them twice and there's nothing in the game in Dublin, nothing at all. Tonight, obviously they had a lot of chances and we relied on last-ditch defending and Gavin to play well in goal. But when you come away to the reason Ireland have never beaten a Tier 1 team in our history in an away game, it's because it's bloody hard. You know, it's not easy. That's why all the great teams haven't managed it. So that's because it's hard when you come to places like Holland at home. It's a tough game. I think, but obviously it was the toughest of groups, and I know there's a lot of criticism about the Greek games, but I think the players gave everything tonight, but just Holland were just a bit better than us.
Okay, we've got to leave it there. Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you.
As he mentioned there, Will, a few other international games going on. Kind of dead rubbers. A lot of the groups are decided. I mean, they're seeded, so typically the best team will go through. In some groups, you know, the second place might still be up for grabs, but really it's all been kind of said and done. When I was doom scrolling here, Will, the other day, I came across Transfermarkt's Instagram post of players who had made themselves unavailable due to injury for this qualifying round, I guess. And as I said, it's kind of dead rubbers, game's done. Players do this sometimes where they go, oh, I'm feeling a bit tight in my left clavicle or whatever, you know, I'm not playing, you know, and the teams go, well, it's fine, we're qualified, it doesn't matter, we're going to use this opportunity to give a cap to a young lad. So they posted this not called up 11 due to injury. In goal, Courtois. Back three, Militao, De Ligt, Martinez, Tuchemeni, Pedri, Musiala, Madison, Leao, Isak, and Nkunku up front. That's a world-beating team.
That sounds like Chelsea's team in 2 years' time.
It very may will be. So I saw that and I thought, it's mad that you would just kind of turn down an international cap. You know, I thought, I wonder, has anyone ever missed out on World Cup glory or tournament glory for that matter because of injury? So I looked into it, Will, and I've made my own 11 of players who missed out on tournament glory because of injury.
Oh, What are we calling this 11?
I just named it.
Do you catch your name than that?
It was very succinct. It was right to the point. Yeah, Miss Glory 11. I don't know.
We'll workshop it.
Unglorious bastards.
Nice. There you go.
Inglorious injuries, maybe. Inglorious injured. The Inglorious injured 11. I'm also going with the back three, Will.
Mm-hmm.
I will say there is some asterisks in this team.
Immediately.
Well, just to pre-warn people, because I don't want them to shout at their podcast listening device saying, this isn't he wasn't,
Yeah.
So I'm going to start up top because the first couple are fairly no asterisks at all. It's well known, some of these, okay? So up front, two up fronts, Mr. Injury himself, Marco Reus. 2014 World Cup, Will, he missed out. It was a partial ligament tear in his left ankle in their final World Cup warm-up game against Armenia.
Oh, that is a tough one.
The confidence booster before the World Cup. They won 6-1 and he got injured.
Shades of Halil Akbanar before the Euros.
Well, the only difference is that he was definitely the team. And Yogi Low afterwards said this is going to leave a huge gap in the team. We were planning our team around this guy. He was going to be the guy. This is Marco Reus when he was 25 years of age, in his peak, like ripping it up. One of the best players in the world. He missed out on Euro 2012, where they went out to Italy. I don't know if you remember that one. Balotelli's infamous shirt takeoff. We took off his shirt after he scored that goal. And Germany were like, okay, we need to kind of refresh on the side a bit. And then enter Marco Reus, I think Andrew Schürrle as well. And it was like, oh yeah, these guys are the future. These guys are pretty sick. So he was like, build a team around Marco Reus, injured in the last warm-up game. And what's worse then, like he was injured then for the 2016 Euros. I think he played in 2018, but he was injured for this World Cup as well. So he's never played in a World Cup. Like, so that was a chance to actually win it, and he would have played and probably would have helped them win it.
Oh.
So yeah, he missed out, and I think it's safe to say he probably won't ever win a World Cup for Germany.
No, yeah.
So pretty heartbreaking stuff, but a well-known story, the Marco Reus story. Up top with them, Will, Christian Vieri, 2006 World Cup. He did a knee meniscus injury in March that year, and he needed surgery on it, so he was out for 4 months. Now, I mean, for yourself and myself, Will, I know the name Christian Vieri, but I think he's more of a Gen Xer kind of a guy.
Just out of our scope of seeing him when we were watching football, I think.
I think people who grew up watching Italian football, which I think was a big thing in England, for people who are a bit older than us, they're well aware of him and, Baggio and all those players. But just a little bit before us. So I did a bit of research just to see, was this guy going to play? Was he not going to play? Was he going to be just there to pick up medal? But turns out, Will, he is the joint top goal scorer in World Cups for Italy.
Okay. So he would probably get a few games in, yeah.
He would have, but when I was reading it, when he got injured, I think it was Marcelo Lippi said that he would have definitely gone if he was fit. But Luca Toni would have been playing, he was starting, but he would have been there as kind of the elder statesman. He was 33, he wasn't that old, but like experienced. I mean, he's your top scorer in a World Cup and he's still playing, still scoring goals, you're going to bring him,
Yeah.
He scored 5 goals in his first World Cup in 98. He scored 4 in 2002. Again, they had an infamous game against South Korea. You remember that one?
Oh yeah, yeah. Kicked off the pitch. That should have been us.
That was the last goal he scored in the World Cup for Italy when they went out. So he might have gone a bit further than that, but it wasn't to be. So this was like kind of the redemption. This is like, we have a good team here. This is going to be the time we win it. And of course they did win it, but without Christian Vieri. So yeah, he missed out on the World Cup and he's retired. They obviously didn't win a World Cup again. So that was a bit of a heartbreak one for him. But yeah, that's our front two. Pretty good front two, I would say. Mm-hmm. In the middle, then we have a middle three. Will again, it's 2014 World Cup, and it's Gundogan. He missed the World Cup in 2014. This is when he was at his kind of Dortmund peak in Germany. He damaged nerves in his back while on international duty against Paraguay on the 14th of August in 2013, and he was out for 14 months.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I don't remember that at all.
He saw a surgeon and the surgeon wanted to put a big screw in my back, which would not allow me to play football again at that level. So I was scared of playing again. I'm really grateful I found the right surgeon.
He went to Pep's Doc Ock surgery.
She went to a surgeon and said, yeah, I'd say the best thing to do is just kind of, weld that spine together, and that way I might be able to stand up. But no, you never walk or play again. It's like, I might get a second opinion. He said, of course, I still have to deal with the issues, but I'm feeling well enough, as he said recently.
Well,
so
that man, that is spoken like a man who has not had felt peace or like comfort in his body since that day.
Well, like when he was playing Dortmund, he was like the natural successor to Schweinsteiger. You know what I mean? That was what he was touted as. And then he went to Man City, like in 2017. There was no like big fanfare. It wasn't a big queue. Like, this guy's crocked. He can't fucking play. And he had a lot of injuries at Man City too. But I think it all stems from that massive back injury he had in 2013. And actually at that tournament, Schweinsteiger went probably because Gundogan didn't go. And Schweinsteiger was starting on the bench because he was struggling with injury as well. So he kind of got a bit more fitness and played himself into the tournament. And as we all know, he had like the game of his life in the final against Argentina.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's one of those ones where if Gundogan had gone, maybe Schweinsteiger wouldn't have gone. But, who knows? All we know that Germany won. Gundogan would have been on the team, on the bench, if at the very least, and missed out on the World Cup glory. Alongside him, we have Santi Cazorla, World Cup 2010. Now, you might say...
Every time you say it, it's like, oh.
I know, yeah, because it's like the only World Cup that team would win, like it's because no one wins like multiple World Cups in a career. So like you miss it, you've missed it. He won the Euros in 2008, so he was on the panel. He was known to the management. This was a classic race against time injury. So in January, he got a hip abductor injury and he missed 8 weeks. So he was like kind of working his way back to fitness, He came on a few games and he got an assist in a 2-1 win. And went, okay, maybe it's time to start him in the next game, see if he can play a full 90 minutes. Do you know who the next game was against?
Ooh, who? Someone nasty.
Barcelona. He lost 4-1, played the whole game. Against like his direct rivals for the team, like Iniesta, Xavi, Xavi and Busquets were all playing, and he was like a passenger of the team. It was like obviously they're already ahead of him in the pecking order, but it just kind of illustrated like we really don't need this guy unless all three of these guys get injured. You probably wouldn't better to miss that game entirely, to be honest. That was the fourth last game of the season as well. So that's like kind of the last kind of impression that the manager might have of you. In terms of that team, I think Silva and Iniesta were dropped after the first game against Switzerland. And they brought in Torres and Pedro, or I think Jesus Navas, I'm pretty sure. But they gave them all a go. They gave Mata a go, Fabregas, Pedro, Jesus Navas. So I think there probably would be a place for Santi Cazorla in that squad, and probably would have got a run as well. Who knows how would have lined up. But I mean, the fact that they dropped Iniesta at the first game means that they were willing to change it up,
At least a medal of some kind.
He would have been on the squad because he was back for the Euros in 2012, which I think is even worse because it kind of proves that like you weren't past it. It wasn't that we didn't think you were good enough. You just weren't fit, so you just missed out. Sorry about it.
That might be the worst one so far.
He has 2 European championships and no World Cup.
Because at least Gundogan, he's like, okay, I missed the World Cup win, but to be fair, my spine is broken.
Yeah, it wasn't just an injury that would get better. Like he would go on to play for Arsenal after that. You know what I mean? Like the best years of his career were to come. So yeah, it's a tough one for Cazorla. But I think the worst one in the midfield is yet to come. Emerson in the 2002 World Cup. He was captain of the Brazil side.
Oh no! He would have lifted it.
He would have lifted the trophy, yeah. He dislocated his shoulder in training while, playing in goal. Dicking about. That
is the worst one yet, definitely.
Like, I didn't say anything that would confirm this, but if I had to guess, I would say he was like, I'll play in goal, watch this, and then over-exaggeratedly dive for the goal, like making fun of a goalie, on his shoulder. Dislocated his shoulder. He was on the ground for 10 minutes, apparently. When they got him into the dressing room, the doctor examined him and said to him, you're out of the World Cup. You're not going to play. Like you're done.
My.
Tragic.
Hey, but what's the chances of you winning it though, Emerson?
It's not like we won 94, got the final 98. You know, it's not like we have a generational side here.
Yeah.
You know that you're the captain.
It'd be
of.
fine. It'd be fine.
And what's funny, Will, not funny, I guess mad, is that he replaced Romario when Romario got injured before the 1998 World Cup. So he came into the squad as last minute replacement, played so well in the 4 years in between, became captain of the side. And then,
Yeah, that is mad.
and I mean, this one is for you, Will. Do you know who replaced him in the side?
Ooh, who would have replaced him? No idea.
He was replaced by future Man United flop, Cleberson.
Oh, how far he fell.
Like they won with Cleberson in the team, Will. And you know, so all you had to do was not be injured. He would have won the World Cup.
Oh, that is a bad one. Yeah, because especially just the going and goal thing. He probably is still thinking about that to this day.
Oh,
I could have just not done that.
Just messing around at training. Probably the end of training, you know.
And
Killer.
like a dislocated shoulder as well. You would think is like, surely he went to the doctor's like, you can just pop it in, I'll be fine for the World Cup one.
Just strap me up, Doc. Please strap me up. Now, Will, this next
The
one.
asterisk is
No, not. They're all pretty solid, pretty tragic, pretty heartbreaking. This next one isn't the World Cup; it's the Euros.
okay.
The 2016 Euros. Bernardo Silva. He suffered thigh injury for Monaco in the second last game of the season.
Oh man.
Yeah. So he was out, and I mean, at the time, he probably thought that's a bit of a bummer. But I mean, what are the odds? We might beat France in France, you know? Like I said, it's not a World Cup, but it's probably the only chance he'll get of winning anything for Portugal. So it's, you know, and like, what was the last time Portugal won anything? Like generations before the last time they won anything. So I mean, that was one chance. He definitely would have played. He was one of the best Portugal fielders at the time. Still is. I mean, I guess he has the Euros this summer, which, you know, I'm not writing them off yet, but
they don't have like the Ronaldo they had then is not the same guy as now. So it's a huge missing piece of the team that won the last tournament.
Like say something like Renato Sanchez never played that well again. After the tournament. I mean, he was a very like the stars aligned from that tournament, and he missed it with thigh injury playing for Monaco. So it's a tough one for him. But I guess he still has 5 Premier League medals and Champions League medals. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but he's still, I'd say it's a sore one to this day for him.
For the moment, he has those. We'll see.
So he was playing left wing back, Will. Not his preferred position, but we saw him playing there for Arsenal, you know, so I mean, or against Arsenal.
I'll give it to you.
I mean, he played against Saka and he didn't get sent off, Will. That's something to shout about.
That's true.
You know? Well, I can't play Santi Cazorla on left wing back, can I? I got to make this team somehow. Now, Will, we move on to the first asterisk.
Okay.
Jurgen Koller, 1996 Euros. Now, technically, he wasn't not selected. And he technically does have a medal.
Right.
And he was playing in the tournament.
In fact, he lifted the trophy.
Well, he might have, Will, because he was captain as well.
Oh.
But he got injured.
This is a big asterisk, yeah.
He got injured 40 minutes in the first game.
Oh.
He tore his
that
medial
counts.
collateral ligament. Not even a quarter into the game for Germany. And he was eventually sent home, Will. Not in the squad, not in the team.
Oh, that's worse, I think.
This man won the World Cup in 1990. He won the Champions League with Dortmund against Zidane, Del Piero, and that man, Christian Vieri, that famous 97 Champions League win for Dortmund. He won 3 German titles, 2 with Dortmund, 1 with Bayern. He won a Scudetto with Juve. He was German Footballer of the Year. You know he wanted to be out there. Like, the medal doesn't really matter to him. Like, it's like, yeah, I got it for 40 minutes. He wanted to be there. He wanted to watch from the sidelines or from home, which he eventually did.
Yeah. And it's nearly worse when you do go and then you get replaced and they win. Like, if you don't go at all, you think, oh, if only I was there, I could have, had such an impact. But when you're there and you immediately cause a huge issue for the team, that has to be tough.
Also, they had a lot of injuries in that tournament and they still won. So in his mind, thinking, I definitely, if I had played, there's no way I would have lost. I would have made the team worse,
Yeah.
So for him, I think not really playing in the tournament and getting the medal, it's almost as bad as not getting it at all for him. For a winner like himself, he doesn't. He's got no interest in that,
Yeah.
So a bit of an asterisk that he did play, but he was kind of robbed of the tournament experience, and again lifting the trophy by injury. So it's an asterisk, but there's bigger ones to come. So we'll move on. Now, next, onto just a solid one. Nothing to say about this one. Lauren Koscielny, the 2018 World Cup. He was ruled out for 6 months with a ruptured Achilles tendon in the Europa League semi-final second leg defeat by Atletico Madrid, no less. So a sweaty game against Atletico Madrid in the Europa League, which obviously didn't win because it got knocked out. You might say, well, would he have played? You'd probably think of Koscielny towards the end, or maybe some of the Arsenal performances, but I mean, he was the starting centre-back for that team. He was replaced by Umtiti, who he then convinced everyone he was one of the best centre-backs in the world afterwards because he won the World Cup.
Yeah, and then his injuries started.
We all know what happened after that, I think he bought him. Barcelona pleaded for him to leave Barcelona afterwards.
It was one of those.
One of those things. So Koscielny definitely would have started ahead of him. He won't be back. I would say he's probably past that point in his career. Just one of those things where you hit a peak in your career, and maybe there's an opening in the team. It's still a good team, but you can add something to it. And Europa League semi-final. What a way to go! Next to him, Will, in our back three, Puyol, the 2012 Euros. He got a knee injury that kept him out. He was actually going to retire after 2010. He said, "You know what? I've conquered it all," but said, "Please come back for the Euros just to usher in the new generation." He was 34 at the time, so just at that point of, I'm probably going to retire from international. But he did his knee. But I mean, he won the Euros in 2008 and the World Cup in 2010. And he had his moment in the World Cup when he scored that goal in the semi-final, the only goal. So I mean, he had done it all. It wasn't as tragic as the other ones. The only one thing that might have annoyed him was that he was on 99 caps, Will.
Like, that would wreck your head for years. Just be like, could have just done one more.
Yeah. And it was evident because he was available for selection after the Euros that they won. He wasn't named for a few squads, and then he got a shoulder injury. So he was definitely out of the squads. But he was still, hey, if there's any more friendlies coming up, I'm your guy. But as out of respect, on June 3rd, just over a year afterwards, he was awarded his 100 cap. Well, he played 45 minutes as captain as they beat Uruguay 3-1. So he actually got the 100 cap in the end. So, I mean, don't feel sorry for him at all, I think, really.
He doesn't even think about that Euros.
I wouldn't say so.
Doesn't even register.
So. This one now, Will, onto our second asterisk. Let me tell you, Will, right? What my research is, a lot of attacking players get injured before World Cups.
Yeah.
And their team might go on to win it. But if you lose a defender or a goalkeeper, like kind of the rock of your team, you're not winning the World Cup. So there's plenty of players who've missed World Cups as defenders, but very few have gone on to see their team win the World Cup without them. You know what I mean? So it's very hard to find defenders. I'll just put that out there, right? So rounding off the back three, we have Daniel Passarella, the 1986 World Cup, which Argentina won. Now, the official reason was that he was suffering from endocarditis, aka infernal diarrhea.
Infernal?
I think it's infernal, Will, yeah.
Whoa.
I mean, I thought at first maybe it's internal, but then what's external diarrhea? So it must be infernal,
That is a big asterisk.
And it was not just like your normal diarrhea. He lost 14 kilos, Will.
What?
14
What was left
kilos,
in him?
apparently he lost.
Did he
Well, apparently rage and conspiracy theory was left in him, Will.
Did he think he was poisoned?
Yes.
What possible poison could do that to you?
Just well, I'll let you know what the word on the street was back in 1986. People speculated that the coach Bilardo had sidelined him because he was a holdover from Luis Cesar Menotti's era, which was the previous World Cup, the 1978 World Cup, which he did win. And the thought was that he's one of the old guard. This is Maradona's team now. We're trying to move it on. This guy's going to want to do it his way. I want to do it my way. Be best if we could get him out, but he's pretty good. So
what could we do?
Now, the former goalkeeper of that team, Ubaldo Filiol, he went as far as to suggest that Bilardo had given Pastorella a laxative that made the condition even worse. So that would result in the 14 kilos losing, because that's like an unprecedented amount to lose for this illness. You know?
Insane.
Pastorella himself does not believe that he was sabotaged, but did say that he did not receive proper medical care.
Okay.
So he's thinking, all right, I got the illness and I was fucked, and they didn't really seem that bothered that I wasn't going to play for the first few games.
Yeah.
He believes that he had eaten or drank something contaminated, and that's what caused it. But he doesn't believe that anybody handed him more laxative. But he did think that the medical care wasn't too pushed, that he was going to be missing for the first couple of games.
They were pretty chill that he was shitting out 14 kilos of diarrhea.
Yeah, they didn't seem too worried that a former
pal.
World Cup winner was not going to play on the team. So like he missed the first couple of games, but he recovered and he was fit to play, but he was never put back in the team. So that's how the conspiracy theory is like, why are you putting him back in the team? It's like, yeah, well, I think we were doing fine without him. So what if it's not broke, don't fix it. You know, it's like, surely you'd put in Ramos, or you put in Van Dijk if he came back, you know, like any country would, but not the case this time. So he has a medal, Will. So that's the asterisk, because he was on the squad, but he didn't play a single minute.
Yeah.
And he is annoyed about that. He's like, you know, I could have played, I could have got better quicker, but they were happy to let me like rot for a couple of games. It's like, oh, it looks like we have a settled team now. Sorry, man. So he has a medal, but in his mind, he probably doesn't have many fond memories of that tournament. Apparently, he clashed regularly with Maradona and the coach, probably out of frustration that he wasn't playing, and knew that like they don't want me here, they don't want me to play. So yeah, it was ruined by him by illness, I guess.
Yeah. And what an illness.
Yeah, like give me a fucking meniscus any day over infernal diarrhea.
Yeah.
Give me 8 months of recovery rather than infernal diarrhea for a couple of weeks. So that's our back three. Now this is the biggest asterisk of the lot, Will, the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
As I said, it's hard to lose a goalkeeper for World Cup and still win.
Yeah.
I don't think I could find any instances of that happening. Maybe there is further back before articles written. I mean, it's hard to find articles about injuries for World Cup. I was looking up and it kept saying the 2022 World Cup. It's hard to find, you know, who got injured before the 2010 World Cup, you know.
Because they were like, who cares? Who would ever care?
Well, it's just those articles have been lost or like taken down, like just to save space on whatever server the newspaper using. I don't know, but tough to find. I had a few World Cup goalie injuries that were pretty funny. But they hadn't won the World Cup, so I wanted something that would at least tie in a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I found this one. This is, like I said, the big asterisk of the whole team. Harold Anton Tony Schumacher, Will, the 1990 World Cup for Germany.
Good name.
Now, I know, of course, Will, you know who Harold Anton Tony Schumacher is. Of course you do.
Hats,
but for the folks at home, well, Tony's the nickname. Tony short for Anton. Like Tony Soprano, you know, like a bad guy, we'll say, Will. For anybody who doesn't know, you've probably seen him. You've probably seen this clip of a shaggy-haired goalkeeper in the 80s absolutely cleaning out a French player.
Just wonder what the referee thought about the challenge from Schumacher on Battiston. It certainly looked a wild jump. And he comes to have a word with Lopez to see whether he's ready to come on without really having limbered up, which he is. And we're going to restart with a goal kick.
Have you seen this clip, Will?
I know what you mean, yeah.
Yes. This is the incident with Patrick Batson in the semi-final of the 1982 World Cup. I mean, the ball was kicked past him and he went to absolutely clean Patrick Batson. Mm-hmm. Like no attempt for the ball. It was clear as day, even at the time, you know, back when men were men. People were like, that is an absolute assault. Patrick Batson had 3 broken teeth, cracked ribs, damaged vertebrae, and he was unconscious for half an hour, drifting in and out of a coma on the pitch.
Oh my God. You know what's a bad tackle when you break your teeth?
Yeah. I mean, he jumps into the air. I mean, you break it down in slow motion. He tips the ball past him and Schumacher's not even in the air yet. He jumps after the ball is kicked past him. So there's no, like at the time it's like, no, we're just going for the ball. It's a natural goalkeeping movement, you know, but he turned his hip and his arm to him and he said, oh, I just don't want to hit with my knees. It's like, so you hit with your hip and your forearm, like, you know. Anyway, it went out for a goal kick. The ref said, I was watching the ball. I didn't see it, you know.
Get rid of this VAR shite.
So of course it was just a goal kick. Nothing happened to him. What I think the worst thing about it was his reaction after the tackle. He went back, got the ball, and laid it down for the goal kick. As your man's like clearly unconscious on the ground. He's like, "Come on, let's play some football. What are we doing? Lie around all day? Like, come on, what's going on here?" I think the French players were gathering around him, and one of them turned and made a gesture at him, and he waved him off. He's like, "Get on with it, will you? Get on that. Come on, let's play some ball here." That's what he said, Will, with his body language. He said that. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. Of course, they would go on to draw that game 3-3 and go to penalties, Will. The first ever game in a European Championship that went to penalties. Guess what happened? Schumacher saved 2 of the penalties and knocked France out and celebrated like nothing had happened.
The beautiful game.
Celebrate like mad, loving it, absolutely giving it loads to the French. After the game, Will, he was asked by a reporter about the injury to Batazon. And he said, were you aware that he broke some teeth in the tackle? Do you want to hear his response?
Absolutely.
If that's all that's wrong, tell him I'll pay for the crowns.
Wow.
Remorseless. Absolutely remorseless.
This guy is ruthless.
Yeah. So the French public were not too happy, Will.
Yeah, I could imagine.
SS, they called him. He was.
You can't be saying that.
They said a lot worse than that, Will, and did a lot worse. He was portrayed as a pathological brute. Anti-German sentiment was stoked in France. Schumacher beat Adolf Hitler in a newspaper poll of France's biggest enemies.
Wow.
This is 1986. This is 1982. This is not that far removed from World War II,
Holy moly.
It's nice to know that recency bias has always been a thing, but even still, it's a big statement to make in a newspaper poll.
This is like the Beckham incident again, all over again.
If Beckham had actually done something,
Yeah.
Chancellor Helmut Schmidt was compelled to send a telegram to President Francois Mitterrand. Together they issued a joint statement in an attempt to ease tensions.
Wow. It was an international incident.
It was an international incident. Schumacher said, I could not understand the scope of it.
He just has what? It was a tackle, lads. Relax.
He said, I was a totally apolitical person, but suddenly I was responsible for anti-German resentment flaring up in France. It sounded like I was going to trigger the next war. So much hatred. I'd never felt it before. So he was panicking.
Hey, what have I done?
So after the game, he was all like, yeah, no, nothing wrong with it. I just did what I was going what any goalie would do, which didn't help it. The German and the French FAs did the right thing, to be fair, and they ignored the problem and hoped it would just go away.
Yeah.
They didn't play again until 1984, so let it simmer for 2 years. And it was a friendly in April, just before the Euros in 1984. There were armed guards the game. The whole pitch was cordoned off. French fans had made signs saying Nazi, and they had swastika signs. They were throwing eggs, potatoes, apples, tomatoes, stones at him when he was in the goal. They whistled every time he touched the ball. The works, Yeah,
the potatoes, everyone knows. The classic.
The whistling when he touched the ball, all that kind of stuff. When they arrived at the Strasbourg Stadium, he was greeted with a life-size dummy of himself being hung from the stadium.
Just like Beckham. For the German people, for the German FA, for the German government, they're trying to get away from this Nazi thing. They don't really don't like They
this
don't
thing.
like that.
This is not a good look for us, They really didn't want this to be the kind of phase, and they knew it because this guy. It was because this one guy. This is the guy who did it. So really, they kind of wanted him out of the team. They And he said as much before that game. He said, "If I'd not stood up to the pressure, my international career was over. I knew what I had to do." So even then, he's like, "They do not want me representing this team." So I have to be impeccable from now on, or else I'm gonna fucking get kicked out. Which honestly, you have to admire him on some level to be that unflappable. You see a dummy of yourself hanging from the stadium that you're about to play in, and you get in there and they're all baying for your blood. The guards are holding the back, they're throwing stones at you, and you're just like, I'm gonna play the game of my life.
Yeah.
That's fucking metal. That is seriously metal. And it's funny because he has a kind of a strange view on things. In his opinion, he had won them over at the end of the game, which like
No chance.
no chance. They
Definitely
brought
not.
swastika sides to the stadium. It's like, actually, you know what? He's a pretty
He's
bloody
pretty good.
goalkeeper. You know, you got to
Yeah,
respect
he's
him.
gave a solid 7.2 there.
They lost 1-0, but he reckoned that he had a great game. So that's all that matters. They didn't meet in the 1984 Euros that summer. They were in two different groups, but they would meet again in the 1986 World Cup, again in semi-finals. And again, they knocked out France. And he had a stormer, Will. You can look at the highlights on YouTube. He had an absolute stormer of a game, made so many saves. And like Batazon was playing in that game as well. So it was a very poignant moment, actually. The second goal, Ruud Voller's goal, it was almost a carbon copy of the ball that France played towards Batazon. You know, player running through, goalie coming out to meet him. Voller flicks it over the goalkeeper. French goalkeeper pulls out the tackle, stops.
Yeah.
Voller collects the ball on the other side and scores the goal. And just before that, Schumacher had made a save and thrown the ball the length of the pitch. So it started Schumacher, goes like what he could have done, what he should have done. And then Germany scored the goal and they knock it out. So it was absolutely sickening for the French. Like just absolutely sickening. And it cemented them as like the bad guys of like, once again, Germany are the bad guys. That's what they're thinking. Like we're just never going to get away from this, you know?
That goal is a good... it's like a good metaphor for what life is like, where it's just like, no matter what you do, it's always it's the bad guys who always win.
But it just,
and every step of the way you're openly mocked.
it just illustrated like the exact thing. Like this is what an actual goalkeeper movement is. You try and get the ball, you wave in the air, it gets flicked past you, and he goes and he scores. That's what should have happened. When you get caught in no man's land, you either get caught or you take out the man. And, you know, it's very obvious now what you did.
Yeah.
And I remember that, well, I don't remember the 96 World Cup, I wasn't born, but like, you know, all the kind of stories of Argentina winning, and it was like, oh, Argentina win, what a glorious moment. And I always thought it was because they beat the English, and no one likes the English, which I think was part of it. But I think the fact they beat that German side in the final as well, it was like the good guys beat the English versus the ultimate pantomime villains in this West Germany side that were beaten. And this guy was like the face of it, you know, one of the best goalkeepers in the world and just an absolute bastard, you know?
Yeah.
But thankfully for the German FA and for the German people, he was kind of cocksure himself, always was, you know? And he decided he was going to release an autobiography in 1987.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, year after this. So you know what? Time for
A year after it.
the year after the World Cup that they lost. Yeah. Well, it's 5 years after the incident, but it's a year after the World Cup. So 1987, after his last World Cup play there for Germany, he released the autobiography, and he didn't back down, Will. He doubled down.
Classic.
Didn't back down. He doubled down. Said, no, absolutely never meant to hurt him. Just a natural goalkeeping moment. He said he didn't go over and check on the player because there was a few French players around. I thought they might be mad at me, so I'll leave them to it. Which is like, okay, that's whatever. He said he was looking so nonchalant in the goal afterwards with his hands on his hips waiting to kick out the ball because he was scared that he actually really hurt him. And he was internally panicking. They're like, all right, let's just play on. It's all good. We're all fine, you know. Which,
oh my God, is that his teeth on the floor?
like, oh, fuck. Yeah. And just like ruminating, like, that's my career over. I've killed a man on the football pitch. Who's ever done that before? Who's ever come back from that, you know?
Goal kick, is it? Sorry.
So, okay, that's believable. But then the interview afterwards where he, like, you know, made a quip. Like, if I'm scared, I'm shitting. I'm not going to make a witty quip about the guy's crown that I'll pay. Like, you know, so it kind of falls flat, you know. But he was thinking, I'll write this book and I'll kind of, you know, smooth over some of the bad things I did, you know. He said he regretted those two things, but didn't regret the tackle. So it's kind of like, you know, whatever. But that isn't what was the kicker. That was just like, whatever. That's why people bought the book, Will, because they wanted him to double tackle. But the real bombshell was that he claimed there was widespread doping practices in German football. Doping practices that he partook in.
Of course.
And he was still playing at this point. Like, he was only 33. He was.
Why didn't he just wait a year?
Why didn't he wait till he was retired, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I mean. I think we just cocksure himself. Thought, listen, I've survived this long. Nothing's ever happened to me since, you know? So that gave the German national team an opportunity to get rid of him. Finally, get rid of this guy. He was excluded from German side, didn't play again. His club Cologne also sacked him. Now, if you look it up, Schumacher says they called me a traitor. They call me, a traitor to my country, but they never called me a liar. They never said I was lying. But yeah, he admitted to doping and was then just banned, and that was it. But I mean, there's other players who he implicated who, would go on to win the World Cup in 1990, 3 years later. So in a longer-winded way, Will, he didn't miss the World Cup win because of injury that happened to him, but maybe because of an injury he caused to somebody else.
Yeah, that is quite the asterisk.
It's quite the asterisk, and it's a stretch, I know, and he was getting older, but he was still going to be number one. He would definitely go to the sub-keeper, if nothing else,
I like the idea of us having a graphic of this, like a transfer mark type one.
Yeah.
But then in the asterisk at the bottom is just a wall of text.
Listen, the asterisk is for the people who listen to the pod,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the team, Will. I also have some honorable mentions that I got as well, who missed major tournaments. David Villa in Euro 2012.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that one happening. Mario Gomez in the World Cup 2014 for Germany. He missed out. Marcus Senna, the World Cup 2010. He was the elder statesman of that midfield for the Spain team. Missed out through injury. And finally, Sergio Aguero, Will, World Cup 2022.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, he would have gone as Messi's roommate if nothing else.
Yeah, exactly.
And he might
mascot.
I know he did go. I saw him in the dressing room. I saw him celebrating with a trophy, smoking cigars. He was there, but he actually wasn't. He wasn't there, folks. Somebody who remembers wrong. But I think he missed out on that World Cup medal. Poor Sergio because of his heart condition. But yeah, that was a slog, Will. I won't lie. That took me all day to find that because it was hard to do. And even with that, some major asterisks there. But a decent team nonetheless.
Hey, that was a good segment. Well done.
A real time filler. So that's it, Will. The injured, was it Inglorious injured bastards?
Inglorious bastards, yeah.
Inglorious bastards. Although some of them just tragic. I wouldn't call them bastards. I mean,
tragic bastards.
Tragic bastard 11, yeah. Tragedy 11. The international break is almost over, folks. Don't worry.
Oh, thank God, yeah.
Next week we're coming back. You have less of this kind of shite. Don't worry. It's almost over.
Honestly, that is nonsense. Nonsense. All nonsense.
They say many, many garbage things.
You don't know what you're gonna get.
This is a totally shameful, disgraceful piece of nonsense.
Received balls off yesterday.
You'll learn a lot more if you listen rather than talk all the
Plenty
time.
of time, no problem.